So today we're doing a rig update for one of our favorites here with the rig doctor at Vertex. It's none other than our good buddy, Reverend Dr. Zapata. Zapata, in your own words, how would you describe what's going to be going on today? We're going to start first by doing a couple of things, just updating the rig. We have an original fuzz face on here that Zapata has started to introduce. Got some new delays, got an auxiliary board that has some new vibes, so we're going to be making a few changes right now. I'm working on this dualist, and I'm adding a DC jack in the front, and the reason why is because this is sitting on the power supply in the back, and we don't want any risk of the power supply getting knocked off, so I'm just going to add an extra jack here, so either one could be used, the original jack or this jack. I'm just going to jumper it through, so we're going to start working on that and see what happens next.
Look at the tears roll down the street.
Alright, now, moment of truth. Does it buzz out? 0. Alright, let's go tip to tip. 0. Alright, now the real moment of truth. Okay, we got power there. Let's go to the bottom. Alright, we got power there. We're good. So now we have the ability to go either way. That'll prevent us from having to worry about having the DC jack knocked off from the back, because if you put it in the back here, you got a roadie, somebody gets overzealous, you lose your DC jack, your pedal goes down this way, it's protected. So I'm happy with that. Zapata, any comments?
Excellence.
So one of the big goals and intents for today is really not so much about changing the size of the board. Like, this has been kind of the size that we've been operating with Zapata for probably almost a year here, I would say. But it's really just about kind of adding in a new cast of characters, and one of the big pieces is this fuzz face. And one thing that I like to do that makes this more usable on a pedal board is, if you're using a right angle end coming into the board, and this is the first thing, and ideally you want this to be first because this is a fuzz and it's not going to do well if other things are coming before it, especially anything with a buffer, is I reverse the input jacks, because normally on the fuzz faces it's actually reversed to what we know is kind of to be the standard. And there's plenty of length on the leads on these vintage ones, or even some of the new ones that aren't on PC boards. So I just flipped in to out and out to in. So he can have a right angle cable coming in, that we can, something like this pancake one, or even a standard one. And this is also good because this doesn't have any sort of DC jack, it's all run on battery. So we made it really easy for him to take off, so he doesn't have to use the old VELCRO crowbar trick. So it's easy to remove this thing, and it's easy to just simply unplug, and it will preserve the battery life when he's not using it. So that's just a really simple hack on fuzz faces. If you have one, just flip those in and output jacks. If this is a normal fuzz that isn't a standard enclosure, obviously you wouldn't need to do that, but on these old ones, that's a trick you can use. So what we got so far, we've got the fuzz taken care of, the octave taken care of, the dualist taken care of, the Hughes and Kettner Rotosphere Special Edition Zapata Signature all black. Now we're moving on to the tremolo here, and what I'm thinking that we're going to do is that we're going to route the tremolo actually into this black box that's underneath the tuner, and that's actually going to go out and feed this auxiliary board, because right now we just got long cables hanging off, and that was kind of an impromptu thing that we did with very little time. But now that Zapata's got that box, we can do it properly and put some kind of send and return jacks on there so that it's legitimate, doesn't have any problem. Alright, we're just trying to look at alternative spaces where we could potentially run some jacks, because we're a little bit tight here for being able to run that as a straight interface. So I'm going to try to see if there's a possibility of doing it through the unused space, because there needs to be so much space available for the springs to fit in the Carl Martin. Look at that, and there is, did you add that? They do that. There is quite a bit of space actually. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull apart these sockets. Okay, let's keep this guy safe. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're running power off this as well.
What's that?
Is there power being run off this?
No.
No, just audio. So basically all I'm doing is just taping this out to tell me that as long as I stay within those confines that it's not going to obstruct anything. And then I'll wire jacks and cable straight across. And I'll probably just use the Mogami cable and just have it pretty stiff so that it's not going to be at risk of touching anything inside here. So bad news in Tone Town. We tried to make this work, and I couldn't get clearance to use 1/4-inch jacks like this on both sides. But then I'm actually going to use the remote bypass and the remote whatever this is, remote select. I'm going to change that into the outputs to go to the wah on this auxiliary board. So we're going to reroute these guys, and that way I don't have to drill any more holes. So we just spent quite a bit of time working on the old Carl Martin Headroom reverb, and it wasn't to change anything about the reverb, but it was really just about how to maximize space on the board. We needed a pass-through to go out to the auxiliary board, which is behind me, which we'll show in a second. But we didn't really have an easy way to do that, even though there was a box that's lifting up the tuner on the existing board. So what we ended up doing is I added 2 jacks here very strategically, because there's not a lot of extra space that won't get in the room of the actual spring reverb. So we have basically an input here and a return here, and then we have a send here, and this is the return for the auxiliary board. So basically it'll allow you to plug in here, send out to the pedals, come back from the pedals, and then go back onto the main pedal board to receive the delay and all that stuff. So you basically added 2 new jacks here, so it required us removing 2 jacks, putting in 2 new jacks that are much more low profile because we couldn't fit it on the board, and I didn't want to cut traces on the pedal board, or on the PC board of this rather, to make it work. So we got 2 new jacks here, 2 new jacks here, and so this has basically just become the interface for the auxiliary board. So that's one cool little trick we did. So next part of sort of our mods and updates is I put a TRS pass-through here because on the Tonezar delay there's actually an extension that goes through TRS. So I have 2 TRS jacks here, and this is going to feed off the back of the pedal board and then go over to the auxiliary board. So I just drilled that out and put in these jacks. So we're going to install this now on the board and give them another option so you can wire stuff off the board where it doesn't need to have cables going everywhere. It can be hardwired, he can unplug it and still have all the options that he needs. So we're done with the Zapata rig. It was a lot more work than we originally thought. A lot of holes drilled, a lot of modifications done, but I want to take you through the entirety of what was done and then have Zap play through some stuff for you. So let's start first right here with the fuzz face. First mod done is we actually flipped the input and output jacks on this. So then that way he could plug the guitar in here, and then when he wanted to disconnect, since this is the first thing in line, he could unplug and it would preserve the battery. We didn't want to drill any holes in this just because of the value of an original fuzz face. From here, we then go to the octave from Mulan. This doesn't have any mods at all. This is stock. From here, it goes to the duelist. Now this is where we made our first mod. We added in a DC power jack right here. This is just the same as the one in the back, but we just added an extra one because we didn't want this to get hit off the back in case somebody walked by, nailed it, disrupted it in some way. From here, it then goes to the Hughes and Kettner. This is, again, stock, just painted by Zapata. Then it goes over here to the Tremolo. Tremolo is stock. Then goes up to the tuner. No mods here. And then this is where the first mod starts. After the tuner, I drilled these holes and put these grommets inside of the headroom. This is just wiring Mogami cable through because we couldn't fit jacks. I tried a couple of different styles in here, and we couldn't get it in there without either disrupting the large spring by Accutronics, which is in the main part, or disrupting the PC board, which is in the back. So I'm literally running these through to jacks on this side, which I desoldered and then are just using as pass-through. So this goes to the auxiliary rig, which is over here, which has a input here that I drilled in and added a mod for it that goes directly to the wah. So it comes in here, goes to the wah. Wah then comes back into this routing box, goes out to the Univibe because there's no switch in the Univibe, which is the unique vibe. So this turns that on and off. Then this goes out back to the main board. Now you'll see there's a couple of other things here that have some pass-throughs. We have the Angel Baby, which is a part of the delay. That's receiving a TRS pass-through also from the board, which I did a modification for, into this interface, which is coming into here to bring this power. The other thing that we did is I added a 9-volt power jack to the side of the wah, which is not that visible from where you are. But we put the battery up here so it would be easy for it to be changed. I make a battery power supply, but there's only one device on this board that takes that. So we just mounted it into this clip, which I riveted into the board. And this is just an easy way for him to change batteries without having to take anything off of the board. Anyway, from there it comes back in. Then back into the Carl Martin where I repurposed these jacks to be a pass-through. Comes into the Echo Czar and then goes into the Carl Martin Headroom, the actual pedal itself. And then it goes back to the amplifier. So one pretty complicated rig. Thought it was going to be easy. Ended up taking us about a day and a half to really get it all done. But it sounds great. It's quiet. And Zapata was saying that he went to several countries, several continents, and never had any issue with the rig whatsoever. So we're glad that that happened. We're hoping to extend that. But enough of me. We're going to get to Zapata playing and play us out. If you like what you saw today, please make sure you do the things that you like. You subscribe, you hit the bell icon. If you want to support us, go to vertexeffects.com. We sell a lot of our products, our pedals, and things like that. So please check that out. Until next time, I'm Uncle Mason, the Rig Doctor. Zapata, play us out.